Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about something that we've spoken to before. We've spoken about the Trump voter and recovering or getting the Trump voter. Some people think it's a fool's errand. We've been talking a whole lot about the blue wave. I'm telling you, folks, we are going to have a blue wave if and only if we do more. We are going to have a blue wave if and only if we do more. Before we get started, folks, I want to ask you what I ask you all the time in the first place, and that is to please go ahead right away and share our show on your Facebook page, on your Facebook wall, on your Twitter. Go ahead and tweet it. Go ahead and do all these things because we need you to do so to get the progressive message out. Do you want to see a blue wave? Do you want to make sure that our message gets out there? Then we need you. We need everybody to jump on board and do their part. That is how we get the message out. We get the message out not because, we get the message out when we do our part because you know what? The mainstream media, it's not that they don't want to. It's not that there aren't good people in the mainstream media. There are. The problem is they can't. Why can't they? They can't because they are duly owned by those who advertise on their network. So the only way that we can get around it is for us to self-promote our product or programs. How do we do that? On Facebook, on Twitter, on every platform you can think of. If you're speaking to someone on the radio, remind to tell them about Politics Done Right. Remember to tell them about all these other progressive shows that are there making a difference. We need you. This is your show. You're responsible for this show. You are the guys who support this show. You are the patrons of this show. So I ask you folks to let's make sure and get the message out. So before I get started, I want to have a shout out as well. I want to shout out to Serena Williams. Why? Because she stood up for women. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, well, she was rude on the court, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No, let me tell you something. She got her mood started when they gave her a bad call, assuming or saying she was cheating. That is what did the thing. They gave her a bad call. If it wasn't for that bad call that she had, her mood wouldn't have been there that caused the issues that caused the problem. So, folks, again, let's remember how this stuff got started. So, shout out to Serena Williams. It seems like I've already got a call on the phone. So, before I go with the blog of the week and all of that, I want to bring that person in. You know why? Because, again, your show, you guys take priority. Let's go to 917. Come on in, 917.
Hi, Egberto. It's Mike. You have double audio. Can you fix the audio glitch?
Oh, I have double. Oh, well, thank you for reporting that. Let me see. I didn't realize that the audio was okay. I think I got that fixed. Oh, I'm surprised that happened. Did that fix that for you guys? Let's see. Is the double audio gone?
It's still going double.
Oh, that should be gone. Well, actually, I think there is a short queue that occurs. So let's see what happens in a few. Let me know in the next, let's say, 30 seconds if it's still there or gone. Is it still there?
Yes, I'm still here. I'm just
right.
I have my speaker on and the phone at the same time. So
okay, kind of take you off the phone so to make sure that the audio isn't double for you and that we make sure that we're doing everything right here for everybody at hell. Is it okay now? Okay. All right. Anyway, folks.
It's still going the same way.
Wow, I'm not sure why we will be having double audio, but let me go ahead and try to fix something here. And you tell me, is it that's interesting. That is very interesting. Okay, let me ask folks on the let me see if anybody else has double audio that's listening to the show right now. Please go ahead and let me know. I'm going to be looking at the Facebook page before I get started to make sure that that's taken care of, because that could actually, didn't know if that could be the Facebook system or not. Is it still double audio right now?
All right, let me just restart things over here.
Right. In the meantime, let me go ahead and check a few knobs here, but we are not hearing double audio on our side. But what I'd like to do is, if for those that are listening to the show, we're doing this stuff in real time. Let us know if you're seeing, if you're hearing.
Good. We're good. Whatever it is, you fixed it.
Okay, great. Excellent. Thank you so kindly for calling in, Mike, and letting us know that we had some double audio. Anything else you want to say before we get started with the program, my friend?
No,
excellent.
I'll see you on the show.
All right, excellent. Folks,
Bye-bye.
Anyhow, thank you so kindly, Mike. Anyhow, folks, thank you so kindly for, interactive. You can call in and we can have conversation, all that good stuff. Michael Rudnan is back. Michael, I don't know if you want me to say anything about your absence, but you can put that in there. But it's wonderful to have you back with the show. I hope you're doing much better. You're feeling better. I hope things are going better with you. Folks, again, if you're just joining the show, we'll want to ask you to go ahead and share the show right away. It is imperative, in order for us to get our message out, that we share the program. It is imperative that we share the program. Anyhow, so again, it was great. Serena Williams, it turns out that she was accused of originally of her coach helping her. Come on, which coach needs to help Serena? 20-something Grand Slam win. I mean, it was evident the person was picking on her. But secondly, he continued to do things to kind of rile her up. And eventually, she lost the point. Eventually, she lost an entire game. But Serena didn't back down. She went ahead and she continued to talk to that umpire. We know that this has never happened with the men. We know that the men have been much more vociferous with these coaches, and nothing ever happens. So folks, she stood up for women, and it's wonderful that she stood up for women. Folks, the telephone number is to call in show, Progressive Show, Progressive Show that wants to talk to absolutely everybody, whether you're libertarian. Actually had a meeting with a libertarian, somebody in the middle, and whatever here at Starbucks with some new stuff that we're doing, new shows that we're going to be probably featuring here as well. It's going to be quite interesting. But anyhow, folks, this is Progressive Show. Telephone number 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. Title of the show today, The Blue Wave Needs Some Trump Voters to Come Back Home. And I really mean that. A lot of people just look, we're working very hard. Folks are working very hard to really activate the base, to bring the base home, to make sure that the base goes out there and vote. And the true reality is, if the base goes out and vote, Democrats will win the House. They will win it by a good margin. Now, if we engage even more, meaning if we leave the door open, if we leave a path of none. What is a path I want to say? Let me go ahead and start the show. Title of the show, The Blue Wave Needs Some Trump Voters to Come Back Home. The blue wave seems to be happening, but to effect real change, we need a tsunami. And that is because of redistricting. If we want to have veto-proof majorities and et cetera in Senate and elsewhere, what we really need is a tsunami. We need people to see folks voting progressive from all corners that they hadn't a clue would have voted that way. Once that happens, the numbers are going to go berserk. Think about a senator coming in from Nebraska. Well, I think that's a Democrat running anyway. But think about Mississippi. Think about Texas. Think about all these states that a Democrat could actually win. And I'm not talking just any Democrat, but a progressive Democrat. So anyhow, the blue wave may yet happen, but to do so, we must be smart. We cannot be in a modal where we leave any votes on the table. Leave 0 votes on the table. That is like constantly leaving batters on the base. You get 3 hits. The bases are loaded, and the 4th person comes in and they hit a triple play. No, we don't want that. We want folks to come in the fold and bat, and we want to bat it out of the park. Now, how do we do that? We cannot be in a modal where we leave any votes on the table. There is a large swath of Trump voters that voted for President Obama. These voters are definitely reachable, especially as they see Trump as the snake oil salesperson we always knew he was. It is time that we give them the space to come back into the fold. Castigating for the past is not necessary. We must keep our eyes on the ball. Hear what I just said, folks. That's important. We don't have to be, oh, la, 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 la. We told you so. We told you he was a snake oil salesman. We told you he was only for the rich. We told you he was a liar. We told you this. We told you that. We don't have to do that. We don't have to do that at all, at all, at all. All we need to do is leave the door open. Leave the door open and give them containment. Give them a welcoming. Let them know, thank them for seeing the light. And you don't have to say seeing the light. Thank you for coming back. That is what we want. And notice how I'm saying this. This is something that you have to do all over the country. That's why I'm saying it that way. Do it all over the country, right? Go ahead and let these people know it is okay to come back. And in coming back, we have no intentions whatsoever of just rubbing it into your skin. Look, there are new CNN polls out, and the man's numbers are cratering. All right? So we have an opportunity here. Because if his numbers are this bad, purportedly with an economy that is doing very well, that should not be the case, but it is. And it is time to take advantage of that reality. And if we take advantage of that reality, we won't only win the House. We won't only marginally win the Senate. We run the risk of winning it all, including a veto-proof Senate. Oh, Egberto, are you crazy? That is a plus 11. I'm actually saying, yeah. I am saying a plus 11. And what do I mean by that? People are saying, oh, you're just crazy. Let me tell you something. Americans know something. Something is wrong, right? Something is wrong, and it's going through the entire world. I mean, we have Lula in jail from Brazil. We have Mantonado or Comando, I don't remember his name, who the right-wing guy who got stabbed that's running in Brazil because people can't believe that they're about to bring in a right-winger, into Brazilian politics even after the coup, a coup that brought in a center-right, if not just kind of right plutocrat in. We see what's happening around Europe. America still remains a leader, and people want America, they want to see America that way. And the reason why is we are the country made up of a whole lot of people, a whole lot of different kind of people. And if we can start the recovery of what the right wing has done throughout the world, not just here, but throughout the world, if we can be that template that bucks Trump and the evil that he represents through all the evil factions that support him, including the evangelists that have forgotten all the teachings that they believe Jesus taught them, if we can get that out, we're talking about a climactic shift. A lot of people don't see it yet. I mean, we are at the edge of a climactic shift, and you are the ones who can bring it home. Not only in the work that you're going to do in your own communities, but also in the work that you will do by attracting not the voters that are easy to get only. You work hard as hell for them, but to attract the voters, the Trump voters and others into the fold. And you do that by making the case. It's not easy, but whoever said it had to be easy. But folks, do you know what time it is? Do you really know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay, let me tell you, the weekly blog post that we have here is an important one, and I wrote it last week for the front page on Daily Kos. And I got two kinds of responses from it. Some people just say, we need to just spend all our energy bringing out the base. That would be kind of nice, but we need to spend the energy bringing out the base. I'm saying no. First of all, we need to bring out voters, right? And you want to bring out people who you know vote as well. And we can pray and beg and talk about bringing out the base and all that good stuff. That's a good thing. We're going to try to bring more people out. But we also know the people who vote. And we also know there are people, no matter how much you talk to them, they'll tell you they're going to vote. And they don't because they are just not interested in that. So we have to be multifaceted in our approach. We can't do it single-handedly. The way things have worked so far, how good has it been? We've lost 1,000+ seats throughout the states and Congress. So we should be looking at things a different way. So I wrote this blog of the week for Daily Kos, and I want to talk about it here. The title of it is If This Former Homophobe Could Change, So Can a Racist Trumpist. And the reason I put myself in this particular blog is not to be self-serving, but to be humble and to explain that what I'm asking us to do has nothing to do with how I think things, the idea is I want to show the psychology of us all and how things can really change. So here we go. It was the late 90s on a trip to China with my then business partner, Joe. I can't remember why I was ranting against gays. You see, I am tricultural, Black, Caribbean, and Latino, and each of these subcultures have strong homophobic streaks. Can you change your race? Joe asked, paraphrased. No, I answered, nor would I want to do so. A gay person could live an easy, unconfrontational life by denying who they are, Joe said, again paraphrased. Before I go any further, I got a lot of flack for that statement. That statement that Joe made, a gay could live an easy, non-confrontational life by denying who they are. A gay person at Daily Kos railed back. I am tired of people of color saying that. Well, actually, it was Joe who said that, and I was repeating the claim. But the idea behind that claim is that for many gays, as far as how many people see them, they don't know that unless it is told to them. I mean, some do act a particular way, I guess, but most people would just make assumptions and just say, I didn't know, or whatever. So I don't know that Joe was not trying to be critical or trying to demean gays in any way when he made that statement. But anyhow, continuing. As simple as that exchange was, it went off like a bright light bulb in my head. Though not cured from the heart, the brain was re-educated and rewired. Change from the heart, no negative gut reaction in the presence of my gay brothers and sisters came more slowly, but guess what? It came. In other words, immediately when I was schooled, I knew I was wrong. And after knowing I was wrong, mentally, in my head, in my brain, I knew that I was wrong. But afterwards, I hung around with gay people, all that good stuff. But, I still had that little twinge, if you know what I'm talking about. I knew I was cured of my homophobia when it came from the heart. In other words, when gay folks no longer seem strange to me or anything, it was like anybody else because it's like anybody else. But the transition came, right? I was a victim of my culture. I was a victim of all of that. All people are victims of their culture, victims of their upbringing, victims of all these other things. And that is the reason why I am always so empathetic, right? Empathetic because, yes, my own experience, but empathetic because I think, intellectually speaking, we have to understand that that is where people are. So anyhow, a gut reaction in the presence of my gay brothers and sisters came more slowly, but came. I went from homophobe to a huge gay rights supporter part of my atonement. Culture and how one was reared is not easy to overcome. Even when one makes the intellectual transition, muscle memory many times continue to lurk. It takes a lot of work to change muscle memory permanently. It takes a lot. I mean, you have to work at it. You have to be immersed in it. And then these things happen. You know, that is why things like integration is so important, right? Because if you live among people that don't necessarily look like you, remember physical appearances as one of the least things of humanity that we give too much credit to. But the fact that if you live amongst folk, eventually it's a natural thing. And the muscle memory forget that these people used to look a certain way. It's funny because at Starbucks this morning, I had I have to say, a very non-productive day at Starbucks today, because it seems like people were coming one after the other. And then I had a meeting at 11 o'clock with a new venture. Then I had people coming up early in the morning when I got there. But this Swiss guy, he looked at me and he said, Egberto, this guy's an older guy. He said, when I went to England from Switzerland, I had never seen a black person. And guess what's the first thing that I did? I'm like, you went up and rubbed them. And he said, yes, how did you know that? Well, when I went to China, that's what they did. A lot of the people in Xi'an had never seen a black person before. And apparently TV, I don't know about TV or whatever in Xi'an, but, my partner, one of them was white, one was Chinese. It's funny that the kids in the park would keep coming up and running up and wanting to rub on me. And finally, Jerry, the white guy, said, Egberto, you know what we're going to do? We're going to put you up on a pedestal and we're going to start charging $1 just for a touch. To which I said, of course, if you give me 70 cents on the dollar, I'll do it. Anyway, that was made to be funny. But I mean, that's what the guy said. But, I digressed. But let me get back into the thing now. Many disparage those who engage Trump supporters, right? Many people would tell you, don't bother. They say Trumpists are racist. The narrative is that we should stop wasting our time trying to convert them and spend more time reaching our voters. Like if we have some kind of our voters, right? Yeah, we kind of have we know people who have the propensity to vote progressive or Democratic, but none of these guys are our voters. A lot of Obama voters voted for Trump. 15% of black men voted for Trump. So now there's not our voters. You fight for your voters. You engage your voters. You try to get voters. After all, post-2016 election research suggests that racism played a bigger factor than economic angst. Imagine that. That's what the research came out and said, right? The research came out and said, most of these guys were racist and that's why, they vote. Look, I don't care. The truth is I don't care. I honestly do not care. I am not trying to make them my brother. I'm not trying to make them my friend. I'm not trying to make them anything. If they want to be a friend, hey, we can talk about being a friend. But I want their vote. I want them to vote their interest. That is what I'm talking about. And that requires getting rid of your own pride that, how could you have supported that person? Get rid of it. It doesn't matter. What matters is outcomes. Outcomes that affects us all. Anyhow, those concepts are not mutually exclusive at all. A middle-class voter in dire financial straits is more susceptible to easy answers, however false, than the more in-depth work that leads one to understand that the culprit is our economic system that continues to extract with impunity. You cannot have an economy growing at 2 to 4% at the same time the top 10% continue to grow from 5% to 7%. That means a shrinking economy is left for the rest. This is clearly reflected in our income and wealth disparity. The plutocracy must keep your eye off of the ball. They plant seeds that dissect and pit Americans against each other to ensure they turn on each other instead of on a failed economic system run by a few. This is not new. It was true from the inception of this nation. And that is where we have to get smart. That is where we have to remember. Oprah and Bill Gates and Donald Trump, they would go to the same parties. They would go to the same groups, including the Koch brothers. And they will be breaking bread together and drinking wine together and talking about investments together. You would never see them fighting among each other in public and doing all of that. Yeah, you remember how Trump was attacking Clinton? I guarantee you when they're in New York, after this presidency is over, Trump and Hillary is going to be drinking brandy together. Things are going to be just fine. Because they do the damage to get one of them elected, and they all know it's a game as we fight among each other. They know it's a game, but we don't. So we make permanent enemies, and we kill, and we maim, and we hurt people's feelings. We kill their spirits. We do all these things for a whole bunch of rich plutocratic cats that are out there with 10% of the country protecting them, you know, the class that protects the plutocracy, maintaining this charade. But it's an unsustainable charade because math matters. We've discussed that in other shows, so I won't go into that now because you know what the show is about today. Anyhow, when one preaches that race is but a social construct, it is impossible not to engage everyone. All right? So I'm out there. I constantly preach that race is a social construct. Why do I do that? Because it is. I want people to stop concentrating on pigmentation, that I'm coming through this tube looking with a very dark hue, and some friend of mine is coming out with a very light hue. That is such a small part of our individual humanities. It's pathetic. But we have allowed others to make that the case, and we have to be smart enough to know better. We have to be very smart enough to know better. When you know better, then the plutocracy is in trouble. Then it's time for them to run. Then it's time for them to know that change comes or the pitchforks comes, one or the other. So when one preaches of that race is but a social construct, it is impossible not to engage everyone, Trumpist or otherwise. I have pleasant discussions with Trumpists virtually every day. Some are racist, some less so, others are students. The thing is, I do a lot more listening than talking. Yeah, I talk a lot on the radio, but when I'm talking to folk, I listen a lot. And the reason I listen a lot, first of all, I can learn a whole lot by listening to them. Secondly, I get to understand how they tick by listening to them mostly. And then I can understand, first of all, if I've learned anything. Secondly, how do I reach them? So that's why you have to listen. Anyhow, like I said, I have pleasant discussion. The thing is, I do a lot more listening than talking, teaching and preaching. We reach a comfort level in the conversation where inhibitions begin to fall, and one can begin speaking to the other and not the ideology. Very important. I recently engaged with a young pastor who told me that our conversations meant a lot to him, and it had him rethinking Medicare for all and other issues he had opposed. I would call that a good conversation. An airline pilot told me that he would begin doing more research on the topics we discussed, from Medicare for all to wealth disparity. His partial Ayn Randian stand faded as we spoke. You could see that. You could see that at first he was Ayn Randian in the way he thought, the way he believed. And suddenly, he realized that's not really humanity. And you could see that when you're talking to somebody and when you're into them, when you're not just trying to wait for them to finish talking to make your other point, it is so important. You know why it's so important? Because you can actually see when things are really happening. And that is how we make change. When we can read the person, when the person can read you, when the person is not just trying to get back at the next sentence to buck you, but really wanting to have an understanding. But somebody has to start that modal. Somebody has to start that framing for that to occur. So a small businessman started to rethink immigration that I spoke to and volunteered to write a paper for my blog on an immigration solution that would legalize most undocumented immigrants, but also bring many more into the country. And I remember that argument well, because he was, we were talking immigration and all that sort of stuff. And then he decided to go home and do some research. And he came back one day kind of, hey, Bertie, you kind of going to like what I have to say here. This is a Trump voter, right-wing guy. And he said, You know, I was kind of reading about my Social Security. And do you realize that if we don't start bringing in immigrants right now that are working legally, that our Social Security is in trouble? I said, yeah. We've been telling you that for quite a while now. We've been telling you that we needed, Social Security. People always talk about lockbox and put the money away. That's not how Social Security works. Social Security, the people that are paying today are taking out the money, or the people paying today, all that money is going to the folks that are older and on Social Security now. And the reason folks used to talk about a lockbox and having to put stuff away and all of that is because of the baby boomers. When the baby boomers came of age, we were going to have too many people collecting and not enough putting in. But when the baby boomer people die out, we are going to reach another steady state form of normalcy. And in the process, before all of that happens, we have a lot of options like raising the amount of money that actually is billed for Social Security. Right now, if you make over $100-something thousand, you no longer pay Social Security. We need to pay Social Security everything, and actually drop the base. Bill all income the same on Social Security and everything else, and then drop the base. That is how it should work. Anyway, a few of my folks that I talk to are now regular listeners of Politics Done Right. They get their podcast, they listen to it in the mornings, they go to it in the car. Sometimes they'll get mad at me and say, why did you say this? Or drop me a line or something. But they're regulars now. We're dialoguing. We're having a talk. They're open to some stuff that you're saying. The most important thing happens when they actually ask you a question. Hey, Berto, tell me what would happen if Medicare for All really comes. Isn't that going to cause a whole lot of unemployment? Yes. But in the process of transition, we'll mitigate that. That's what we do. None of this stuff is ordained as exactly how it's going to function. We come across with what we want to do, and then we figure out how to make it happen with as painless as possible. And that's what we do. All have not admitted to having become progressives. They have not. I'm not converting Republicans into progressives or Republicans into Democrats. That's not the goal of what I'm doing. Hey, some of them are, and I would love for you guys to change parties. But here's the funny thing. And I was talking to somebody yesterday, and I told them this. I think it was to my the guy that takes care of my licenses. I looked at him and I said, hey, look, I'm a Democrat right now because the Democrats is where progressiveness lives. Progressive policies currently live in the Democratic Party. But if the Democratic Party was to go crazy, like I can give you a scenario where I think the Democratic Party could go crazy. Right now, the party that gets the most from corporations are Republicans. If Democrats start winning like crazy, and if there is a political paradigm shift, corporations are going to do that as well. And the Democrats are going to be the ones that are constantly getting corporate dollars. And the corporations for those dollars are going to say, tone down on this type of policies or don't do that policy. And they will become the Republican Party of old, at which time I would change to go to the party that is the populist party again. And more than likely that would become the Republican Party. People don't get it, right? The corporations are the ones that we are constantly having to be 2 steps behind, and where we have to be is many steps ahead. You have to remember, the Democratic Party used to be the racist party. It has flipped. The Dixiecrats were the racist guys. They went ahead and became Republicans. The Republicans are the ones who passed or helped Johnson pass civil rights. Johnson himself wasn't a bastion of inclusiveness. He was just a bastion of knowing we better do some stuff right now or this country's going to explode. And the people willing to help him were progressive Republicans. Okay? So when you see me not having complete and entire loyalty for any party, right now it is for the Democratic Party because they're doing the right thing. But we have to remember that in the past, it was the Republicans doing the right thing. And that flip is likely to occur if Democrats take the type of power in states and Congress like Republicans are taking now, rest assured that the corporatocracy is coming for them. And if we don't elect strong progressive Democrats, They will buy into the same thing Republicans buy into. Do you think there's any substantive difference between a human being that's Republican and a human being that is Democrat? No. I talk to them all. All. You know, you have to realize how these things operate. And when you get there, you can be completely and entirely objective. And in being objective, that is how we beat the plutocracy, right? Not allowing them to control the message, not allowing them to control the narrative. Continuing. So I have a whole lot of them listening to my show. All have not admitted to having become progressives, but many admit that they agree with many of the policies as explained. Now, it takes a lot of work, folk. It takes a lot of work, many times one-on-one, to change minds, or at least to have many on the right consider some progressive policies. If we are to have real policy change in this country, just winning the election with 50% plus one just ain't enough. It isn't enough. It will take the hard work of everyone. It is essential that we engage with everybody, whether liberal, progressive, conservative, right-wing, libertarian, or Tea Party. Everybody. One of the reasons I talk to everybody is, right, if I take a person here or another person there and that person starts to think and vote accordingly, and then they have a wife and they talk to the wife and the wife has a friend and they talk, that one person that you change could actually change many. Not just that one person that you spoke to. When you start talking about their personal economies, they might start thinking, oh, you know what? I really should think about that. I really should think about what's best for my family. And when I go into that voting booth, even if I can't come to terms with telling my friends I voted for progressive, they don't know what I did in that voting booth. So I can go into that voting booth, vote appropriately, and then lie. I mean, I can go in there and do as I please. I can vote my interest, and if enough people are voting their interest, whether they tell folks or not, folks, the change comes. And that's where you get the plus 11 in the Senate for a veto-proof Senate. Wishful thinking, yes. Possibility, absolutely so. If we are able to share, don't forget, share politics done right, share all these things, it's essential. That's how we make the change. But if we are able to do that, then the real change occurs. Progressives should not cast too many stones at Trumpists. And this is the part now where I decide that in this piece that I wrote, I wanted it not only to permeate the progressive space, but I wanted some brave Republican to post this all over the place. I want some brave Republicans to post this. And let me tell you why. Here's the part that I want people to learn. Progressives should not cast too many stones at Trumpists. As a black Latino Caribbean man who attends many progressive conferences, one should note that the behaviors of progressives, while more high-minded and many times, leave a lot to be desired. Many people of color are disregarded in these spaces as well. I'm going to stop right here to just tell you what just occurred at Netroots. Netroots, we have Radio Row, where all the stations are there. Some big, some small. And believe it or not, you had a couple of people that run the way I run as well. And out there for the spotter initially, I was invisible. Those people that you saw me get, most of them, you saw me hustling directly to the politicians to pull them in, use whatever it is that I have to talk to them and tell them why it is a wise choice to do a Politics Done Right interview. But then I saw next to me somebody that probably did, or close to me, somebody that probably did 7 or 8 interviews. They were shopping people to this person. I did 46 interviews. 46. I was hungry and I wanted to bring y'all something. I wanted to make sure that you guys saw what was out there at Netroots. I wanted you guys to see what was out there in the progressive space. I wasn't there to say, hey, this is Politics Done Right. I'm sitting down here on Radio Row. You can bring somebody, I'll interview them maybe. No. I could do that and have maybe 4 or 5 interviews while the competitor or whatever gets 6 or 7 because the spotter gave preferential treatment. Or I could do what I did. And I went out. And there are a couple of people I really shook up. Not the candidates themselves, but the candidates' handlers who also took yours truly for granted. And in shaking them up, noting that 5 or 6 or 7 minutes later, there was the candidate. Because I reminded them that the power didn't come from them. The power didn't come from the choices they made. The power comes from you and who we can attract and who's going to see this and who is going to make it happen. So you can play the games of the elitists if you want. And that's what I told one of them. You can play the game of being elite. Oh, well, politics done right. Politics done right. The Turks Network. Well, let's go to the Turk where they have a huge studio. Well, you know what? We have great engagement. And we have another audience. So those are, so what I'm saying, even in the progressive space, the same thing that we accuse Republicans of can be found there. It is very much there. Thank you very much. While I am not a fan of safe spaces at all, the fact that even at Netroots, people talk about safe spaces for people of color should add some humility to our stances or false indignation. I wrote about one of these experiences in a piece titled "Reaction by Some Liberals at Netroots Nation to Black Lives Matter Disappointing." That was the Netroots that I think we went to in Arizona, when a lot of our brethren, including some of our folks at KPFT, really had a protest against Bernie Sanders and others to say, what is your stance on the criminal justice system? What is your stance on black folk getting killed, people of color getting killed by police officers in an inordinate amount of fashion? What is your stance? The liberals in that room, half of them went, they went cold. They sneered at the Black Lives Matter group. They were pissed at them. One of my friends said she saw somebody writing, "I've never been so scared in my life." Are you kidding me? Bernie Sanders wasn't scared. Bernie Sanders was talking. Bernie Sanders tried to answer. Bernie Sanders that night, we had about 3,000-4,000 people in the main hall where Bernie Sanders was talking, all liberal bloggers. And that night, Bernie Sanders in the same auditorium spoke to over 15,000 people down below. By the time Bernie Sanders got there, by the time Bernie Sanders did the speech at night, his stump speech had changed to include the criminal justice message. He met with BLM. They went ahead over these issues. They explained why it is that as somebody running, they needed to cover the issues. By that night, Bernie Sanders' message was changed. That is what activism is. In that piece that I wrote, I told them, have you forgotten? Activism isn't to give you comfort. Activism and protest isn't to be done in a safe space where everything is okay. Activism and protest is to make you uncomfortable so that you can look at what you're not seeing, so that you are forced to look at what others, the oppressed, is going through. And that oppressed not only being people of color, that oppressed being gays, that oppressed being women, that oppressed being the disabled, that oppressed being all kinds of folks that can have a different identity that somehow cannot live the 100% American dream. It takes discomfort. When folks are talking these things, we activists, liberals, progressives have to remember that. So the details of how progressive can forget what the fight for race and criminal justice look like. That's what I spoke about in that second blog. Anyhow, and of course, this does not include American Latino, foreign-born Latino, American black, foreign-born black, other dynamics that adds yet another dimension. You know, it's a whole convoluted soup. And when we get that right, precioso, it's beautiful. But anyhow, so that was an admonition to progressives. Don't be out there thinking you are so much not like the right, because that won't at all be true. And I'm telling you this from experience, being all through liberal conferences throughout this entire country. And I tell you, there are too many times as somebody in my body, I have to go out there and make the presence known. Otherwise, you're invisible, you're ignored. So I'm telling you, let's remember, people, the fight is not party. In this case, yes, it is progressiveness. And whoever is progressive. So to conclude, contrary to popular belief, a large percentage of Trumpists and right-wingers are reachable. It is all about engaging them, getting down to their level. Some are unwilling to do that work, and that is fine. If you just can't stomach what you consider lies, what you consider people that allow themselves to be gullible, if you can't handle that, don't do it. But, however, discouraging and disparaging this type of engagement because of misinterpreted research loses us a huge opportunity, especially at this time. So remember, continue to engage everybody. Yes, there are those of us who are going to be solely the base, and we're going to work the base and work the base and work the base. Yeah, I'm going to do my part and work the base. I'll be block walking in precinct 758 pretty soon. Hey, goes for anybody in precinct 758 or want to help 758, I need your bodies. I need your bodies to help me out walk this neighborhood and make sure that we can reach people. And I want to reach a hell of a lot of people, folk. Okay, a lot of people. So the telephone number is 646-716-5812. I'd love to hear from you. But in the meantime, I think I am going to go to the wall, but I need to make sure that I start. Michael D. Newton, hello, my dear friend. Michael Rudnin, welcome back, my friend. Blue Wave, you say? I'm having a good laugh from this. Let me tell you, it's funny. My daughter called me this morning, actually, and she said, Dad, I was wearing your Netroots sweater, t-shirt, and this woman ran up to me and said, did you go to Netroots? And she said, oh, no, this is my dad's t-shirt. And then she told my daughter, there's no real Blue Wave. And then my daughter said, my dad has been preaching that for a long time. My dad has been saying that the Blue Wave is dead. To which I say now, the reason I've been preaching the Blue Wave is dead is because it really was dead. Trump is doing such a good job in reinvigorating a blue wave that has no reason for being, given the incompetence of our movement. And I'm talking about specifically the establishment party, not the activists on the ground. Activists on the ground, I love you. You guys have been busting your butts. Indivisible, Swing Left, PSR, here in Kingwood, Our Revolution, Battleground, Texas. You guys are doing a hell of a job. But there's something about needing some establishment support that just comes not the way it should. We have independent guys like William Bill McCloy, who formed his own organization to really go out there and pepper around Harris County, and this guy been busting his butt all over. We have folks in the surround area and surrounding counties like Adrian Bell, who's going and knocking on everybody's doors, irrespective of their political persuasion. And yesterday she sent out an email that inspired a blog that I wrote that said, hey, I am not a Democrat, but please come and put your sign in my yard because you have my vote. That is what I'm talking about. That is what I am talking about. So while my daughter was right when she told the woman that I've been talking about the blue wave not happening, if and only if we start to re-engage appropriately, the blue wave is back on. The blue wave is back on. If and only if the re-engagement continues. Double audio, fix that. Thank you very much, Michael D. Newton. Let's see. Fortuna, no, it's fine on the phone. My cat died. I've been away for, yes, my condolences. I think I personally sent you some condolences, Michael Rudnin. I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm glad to have you back because, you are one of our top researchers out here. Fred, Infortunio, I blocked walk yesterday. Some R voters did not want to vote D, but their aggravation with DJT, Donald J. Trump, is making them consider voting for Beto. My neighborhood, a solid red neighborhood, has several Beto O'Rourke signs. I've yet to see a Ted Cruz sign. Okay, Trump approval rating is 36 to 37%. I just saw that on CNN. Just came out. Rudnin, among Republicans, Trump's approval rating consistently hovers at 80%. I think, if I'm not mistaken, check it out for me, Rudnin. I thought that had dropped to the 70s now. Daniel Lodeau. Okay, let's talk about all the malfeasance the left has done in the last 100 years. Look, let me tell you something, Daniel. I think I fessed up to the Dixiecrats, haven't I? Come on. We're talking about present day, my dear brother. Present day. But I did tell you about the Dixiecrats. Those were Democrats. Okay? Good. Case closed. Okay, Will E. Wombat. Really, I don't care about them. They were stupid enough to put him in office and are now entrenched with him to each focus on the disenchanted Bernie supporters. Some of the disenchanted Bernie supporters are the Trump supporters, my dear friend Will E. Wombat. So please remember that. That's why one of the subtitle of the show was, we need to get back the Obama voting Trump voter. The Obama voting Trump voter. Okay, let's first tackle those, and then we can tackle the others like Daniel Ledo, who doesn't know yet, but we're going to bring him into the fold. So according to Egberto, a culture that does not agree with his values makes its members victims. But I thought every culture has equal value. Oh boy, you have a way of putting things, Mr. Ledo, and I love the way you put that, because you know something? What you said there is profound. What you just said there is very profound, my friend. Do not mistake or misinterpret culture and evil. They're two different things. I can love your culture, I can love what you do, and they're different and they're just as good, and I respect your values. If your culture, however, has an effect on destroying another culture, if your culture has an effect of discriminating on another culture, if your culture has the effect of harming, we're not talking about culture at that point. We're talking about something that is evil. Okay? So culture I respect, evil I don't. Okay, Rosalind Murphy Caesar, educate yourself about this midterms election. Absolutely so, Rosalind. Get involved, Rosalind. Change comes when we vote. You're absolutely right. Michael Rudnin, Ayn Randian libertarian philosophy results in widening wealth inequality. Absolutely so. Kathleen Morgan, we desperately need campaign finance and lobbying reform. Yes, we do. And you know, Kathleen, that's what we're working so hard with in the Coffee Party USA. Please, folks, remember to go to coffeepartyusa.com. We want to increase our membership by a whole bunch. So go ahead. We have new websites coming out, all that good stuff. But I kind of jumped the gun on that because our great PR team is going to be sending you some stuff pretty darn soon. Anyhow, continuing. Kathleen Morgan, Michael Mine too. Okay, Will E. Wombat. Also keep in mind that on average, only 60% of voters actually come out. Within the RIFs, voters usually outnumber Dems. I trust it will be different in November. We hope, my friend. And I you know what? I kind of think that we are going to get a difference this time. I honestly, I'm starting to think that based on some of the numbers that I'm seeing. So we'll see. Let me go ahead and refresh this page and see what I come up with, see if there are any more statements or questions that I have here. Okay, Daniel, work the base, but don't forget the shaft. I read that before I was supposed to read that. Mr. Ledo? Mr. Ledo, stop it. All right, let's see. Michael Renan says, I support Black Lives Matter. I think their campaign zero is the right solution. Exactly right, my friend. FB finally auto-deleted my comment with link again. I don't know what they're doing sometimes. We need to work the base as well as reach the apathetic people who don't vote. That said, reaching Trumpers might be possible. Yeah, you see, what I try to tell people a lot of times, right, is apathetic voters that don't vote, even in an election like this, they don't vote. Right? We are going to get some of them. We're going to try like hell to get some of them. But the fact of the matter is they don't have a voting culture. There are a group of folks in this country that don't have a voting culture. And those who don't have a voting culture, it's probably easier to convert a Trumpist than to get them to vote. I mean, it sounds silly, it sounds stupid, but think about what has consistently happened midterm after midterm. Okay, let's see. Michael Rudnin. Justice Democrats were my favorites to support this Democratic primary. There's been at least 81 progressives winning their primaries this midterm. Yes, we have a lot of women. We have a lot of people of color. We have just the Democratic base just looks marvelous. This is going to be a beautiful election. If people come out and vote, Congress is going to have a facelift. Congress is finally going to look a little bit closer to what America is. And in looking a little bit closer than America is, I expect that they're going to vote quite a bit like what America is. Now, it's time for me to make my pitch. I am late as usual, but here we go. Please remember, this is a progressive show that needs your support. Please go to patreon.com, patreon.com/politics done right. Become a supporter. Become a member, become a subscriber. This is how we keep the message going. This is how we ensure that we go deeper into subjects than the mainstream media. I'm sending out I think either today or tomorrow, a blast that is going to be talking about the new book that I'm writing. And I'm going to be writing it chapter by chapter, and every chapter that is done is going to go online. And people who are subscriber at a certain level, they are going to get these things online before we go into print. And then when we go into print, of course, the book is theirs. So, but anyhow, it's going to be a positive book. It already has a title. It already has its ISBN number and all that good stuff. So please go to patreon.com, patreon.com/politics done right. We are near the end of the show, folks, and I want to ask you one more time to share this show everywhere. If you're listening on podcasts, if you're listening on a vlogcast, wherever you are listening, it is imperative that you go out and share our program in, because that is how we are going to make the change. I want to thank you so kindly for being a part of this. I do this because I think this is something that has to be done. There are folks that think those of us who throw away everything to do this are crazy. If some of us don't do it, it's history. We are relegated to indentured servitude. Our current system is unsustainable. Mathematically speaking, I'm going to get Richard, I forgot his name now, the economist, to come on the show pretty soon so that we can discuss economic models. And it is going to be important. Why did I forget Richard Wolff? I'm going to get Richard Wolff on the program in the subsequent weeks. I don't know exactly when. I sent him an email. I don't think he replied to me yet about getting him on the show. I want to get him on the show because I want to give some gravitas to an economic model that works for us all and that one can transition in easily. And that, folks, simply love. But anyhow, folks, please give us a call at patreon.com, patreon.com/politics done right. And become a subscriber, become a member. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this, baby. I am out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.